Hello, and welcome to the special edition episode of C++ Weekly. In this episode, I am announcing the first ever C++ Best Practices Game Jam. Now, I assure you that this game jam will be different than any other one that you have seen, and I have participated in a couple of different game jams over the years, but not a whole lot. So that'll be one way that it'll be different, is that it'll be run by someone who's not terribly experienced with game jams, but I expect that you will actually find it very interesting. I will try to put chapter markers to make sure it is clear what parts of this introduction video you would like to see or skip to. And in this video, we're going to cover the rules for the game jam, the concept of the game jam, the start and end dates, as well as a quick getting started for people who don't actually have any experience with C++. I think you will also be able to participate in this game jam. So stay tuned. For the sake of this video, I am not going to do the full ad spiel, but I do want to point out that I've got my best practices book as well as some puzzle books that are related to C++ that are available both on Leanpub and Amazon, and be sure to check out the links in the video description for more information about those. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the dates out of the way. First of all, this first game jam will start on April 1st of 2022. That is going to be 1 week after this video airs. Now, April 1st is just a coincidence. I wanted to make sure that I gave everyone ample time to work on this jam so that everyone can have fun with it. So April 1st is a Friday at 12 noon UTC. I will be announcing the topic, and then you will have from the 1st through the 11th, 10th, 11th to work on your games. And then on the 11th, which is one Monday, that gives you 2 full weekends, you will have to have your submission finalized by, again, 12 o'clock UTC. Then from the 11th through the 14th of April, we will have some community voting, and then on the 15th, we will announce the winners. I say we, but I really mean me. I will take into account all of the community votes, but they will not be the only deciding factor in who wins. Now, currently, there are no prizes planned. If anyone wants to be a sponsor, you can contact me. And the rules for the submissions are in the main README, which is where we started. So what sets this game jam apart from others is that this has to follow C++ best practices. Now, arguably, these are best practices as defined by me, Jason Turner. And they are things that I have published in my best practices books. So I'm not just completely making these up out of nowhere. Now, fortunately, I give you a nice, simple, clean template project to start from. But the concept is you must use FTX UI. If you don't know what FTX UI is, you will be a little surprised by this. This is a terminal GUI user interface tool. So you can do things like this. It has a surprising, you might even say shocking amount of functionality for a terminal application. This is intentionally chosen for 2 reasons. One is to make this as accessible as possible. You don't have to learn a bunch of graphics programming or complicated GUI tools or spend all day compiling Qt or anything like that. You will just have available to you something that works. And I have examples in the template project. And again, you have to start from this template project. I have a link to it. We'll cover that in a moment. It must compile with no warnings or errors on all the pre-configured actions, GitHub actions that the template project uses. I'm giving you a project to start from that works fully in every way that I expect it to. So I'm starting you out with a project that works. It's up to you to break it after that, but hopefully you won't, and you'll be able to actually have fun programming in C++. Now, also, it must be able to run with address sanitizer and undefined behavior sanitizers enabled. And again, these are enabled by default with the template project, so that shouldn't be hard. I will be giving you the theme on Friday, April 1st, and you have to interpret the theme in some way. And you are allowed actually to document any warnings that you have to disable in line in the code, but I expect you to document why. So submissions will take place via pull request to this project. There's information more on the page here. And you must link to a specific release for your project, your pull request, and that release tag must be dated before the submission deadline. And also, by participating in this game jam, you agree to release YouTube and me from any liability related to your participation. Again, that only really matters if this is considered a contest, and we don't yet have any prizes that will be awarded. So we'll see how this first one goes. We are governed by the Berlin Code of Conduct. As long as you follow the Code of Conduct and are a good actor here in this game jam, your submission will be accepted and you are welcomed. You are, of course, allowed to use a team, and there is a Discord that you should be able to join when you click here that I have linked to. This is the Discord that is been traditionally exclusive to my patrons, my Patreon supporters, but they have agreed that it is good to open up a couple of channels for people who want to participate in the game jam to coordinate on. The submissions will be judged based on interpretation of theme, gameplay, creativity, code quality will actually be a consideration here, and of course, fun, gameplay. These things go together, but you can interpret them different ways, and testability of game code. If you happen to add tests that test your game code, that will absolutely be taken into consideration for the judging of these games. So this is partially about being a fun game jam and also partially about giving people a framework in which to learn C++ and practice their C++ skills. All right, so let's get down to it. We have here the template project. And while it's still in flux, you are absolutely welcome to go ahead and create your project right now to learn FTX UI and to get some experience with this template project, and then create a new template project after the theme is announced. Now, I'm saying that you probably want to wait until the theme's announced because this template is still being updated, and we don't want for you to miss out on any important features. So I'm going to hit use this template. I'm going to call it My Awesome Game. It'll be a public project. This is going to be an awesome submission to the C++ Best Practices Game Jam. Now I'm going to hit Create Repository from this template. Now, GitHub is going to generate the repository, but there's also some actions that are going to run that actually clean up the repository for you and get the name of your project pushed in. So let's just go ahead and click over on actions. There we go. We can see that the template janitor is already started. So while that runs, we're going to skip over to Linux. Now, if you already have a C++ environment with Conan that you're comfortable developing in, then you don't need to do this following step. So I have here a brand new install of Ubuntu 21.10. that I'm going to show you how to set up a C++ build environment with Visual Studio Code. Now, for the sake of expediency, I am going to skip the step of actually updating the software that is currently installed, but that is a good thing to do later. Okay, so while that gets installed, we're going to open up the terminal and install a few other necessary packages. I just hit the Windows key on my laptop here to bring up the ability to just type in terminal. So we need Python pip to install a few packages, G++ because that will be our compiler, Clang tidy for static analysis, Clang format for automatic code formatting, Git for, well, being able to interact with GitHub. Of course, you can use any Git tool that you would like to use, and CPP check for static analysis. Our necessary packages are installed, I need to install a few other packages, and this is going to seem a little weird, but I'm going to use pip to install CMake, which is a C++ build tool, Ninja, which is also used for compiling C++ projects, and Conan, which is the package manager that we'll be using. Now, Conan must be installed with pip. The other two have equivalents in apt, but they tend to be out-of-date versions. So I'm doing this to get the latest versions. Now, as you see here, we got this complaint that this folder was not added to our path. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to use Nano, and I'm going to edit my profile. And I'm going to add right here, home.local/bin:. Save this file, write it out. Now I am going to log out and back in again. So I'm going to pull open the terminal again, and we'll just verify that everything is working as we expect. Conan is, CMake is, and we have the one that was installed by pip for us. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull up Visual Studio Code. Of course, pick the theme that you like. I'm going to go with, I think, maybe, no, not high contrast. Let's go with dark. And I can zoom this interface very easily as well. I'm going to use the defaults here, but of course, spend time playing with this if you would like to. I'm going to now install some extensions. And we're going to use the C++ recommended pack here. So this is the C++ extension pack from Microsoft. This includes a bunch of things that are all very helpful. CMake, better C++ syntax, C++ themes, things that make C++ a little bit handier to work with. Okay, very good. Those are all installed. Now, our repository cleanup process should have finished, so let's go back to the projects that we created from our template. And we can see we've got green check marks on everything. Now, some of these took a little bit long to run, but they would have cached the results for us, so future commits will have faster continuous integration runs for them. Now let's go ahead and look at the actual code. And we can see that it did this template repository cleanup for us. So just so you know what that actually looked like, is it went in and deleted a bunch of files that are not relevant to projects that aren't templates. And then it did some renames of things, deleted the license, and set up all of the appropriate links in your README markdown file. So from here, we can see we don't yet have any code coverage that has been registered with it. We need to do a pull request for that to work. We do have code QL analysis, CI test passing, and if you want to set up LGTM, you need to do that manually on your own, but these links should get you to the appropriate places. So this project is ready to go. We want to now clone this in Visual Studio Code. Okay, now that we've signed into GitHub, we should be able to see a list of our repositories. And we have this My Awesome Game. And let's go ahead and put it in my home directory. We will open it up. I trust the authors of this project. I'm not going to use a container, but you absolutely can if you'd like to do that. And yes, I would like to configure it. Now, there is a preset selection of configuration profiles. We're going to start with the GCC debug. Now, this should automatically configure and set up our project in a way that makes sense. This is setting up all of our Conan dependencies for us and getting everything ready to compile. Okay, everything is configured. Awesome. So we're just going to go ahead and try playing the default game that's here. Now I'm going to hit this play button and choose which product to launch. Now we have all these FTX UI targets, unfortunately, but let's just go ahead and scroll down past those to this thing called intro. And it's going to compile all of the dependencies for us that are remaining, which is FTX UI. We already have the dependencies that were automatically built for us from Conan. This FTX UI dependency will only have to compile once, depending on release or debug modes, and then you don't have to worry about it again after that. Okay, now we're ready to go, and we can see that it actually ran, but we didn't pass it any argument that it expected to have. So let's go ahead and run intro. And I'm going to show you the two different games that exist. Well, not games, but demos that exist in here. One is a turn-based game. It is an actual game. This is a tile flipping game. And this is at least the third version of a game like this that I have written. So as you can see, you click on a tile and it toggles the tiles that are adjacent to it. And the goal is to get all of them set to on. And as soon as you solve it, it tells you it took 24 moves and solved, and you can click on that and exit. And then we also have this loop-based demo. And this is more of a traditional game loop. And I can click on that. And it seems almost kind of unbelievable that this is a console-based demo here. But it is currently rendering a 50 by 50 true color pixel grid here, and this is a 6 by 6 that is being filled with pseudo-random data, shall we say, and it's able to calculate the current frames per second and whatever that it's able to execute. And it's definitely being slowed down by the fact that I'm running it inside of VS Code, but it's quite usable, and we can watch it as it slowly changes the colors in this grid. Now to get out of this one, we have to hit Control-C. I didn't give you any way to actually exit from this, but with Control-C, we're able to kill it. Okay, so those are the two examples, and you can walk through these things here in main.cpp, and we've got pretty good syntax highlighting, IntelliSense, code analysis things all happening from within Visual Studio for us, which is pretty cool. And by default, you're getting clang tidy and CVP check analysis. So you might notice a few things. Like I said, you are allowed to disable warnings in some cases, but document why for the sake of this game jam. So this is telling me I'm not allowed to have magic numbers. And, you know, maybe it would be best to actually say that I wanted this thing to be, you know, whatever, some predefined constant or something like that. But if we go ahead and we compile now, I'm going to hit the build button. This is going to compile the rest of the test and whatever example tests that I came in here. And here we go. You can see that we now get this compile time error telling us that we've got a magic number in our code. So just so you know. You can, of course, step through this and see that we're using this doc_opt type of command line option parsing, and we've got our turn-based and our loop-based options, and that's how it decides which of these two things to actually execute. So once you decide what kind of route you want to take, you can remove this code and go down whatever iteration or turn-based loop that you want and have fun, of course. Now, just so you know, at the moment, if you hit debug, you're not going to get kind of the debug experience that you would expect, because the program is immediately going to exit saying you didn't pass in the options that we expected, either turn-based or loop-based. So just so you're aware, you can set up your own launch.json file to do that, or you can remove this requirement for turn-based or loop-based so that you can more easily use it inside the debugger. But we can prove that the debugger does in fact work. If we go ahead and hit the debug button again, then we'll see that we get a debug stop here. And then as soon as it exits from processing the options, then we're going to get this scenario again. So that is the status of this whole project. And that is how you are able to set up and easily use the project. So let's just say I know for a fact that in mine, I am going to use the loop-based example. I can just delete these things, although I need to still provide an intro with no command line parameters as an option. I'm going to do this iteration canvas, and I'm going to delete all of the code associated with the turn-based game. And now we should be able to go straight to our code in the debugger. Very good. And we can pause whenever we would like to and step through the call stack. So this should all be quite doable. We are in the game loop here. Very good. Okay, so let's go ahead and commit these changes. And I'm going to go ahead and commit them. And this is the kind of thing that you'll run into the first time you use Git on a brand new computer. So let's go ahead and set that up. And now we should be able to finish the commit. and push these up to GitHub. And we can see, a Lua-based game choice. Oops, that we have created my awesome game here. And somehow I already have 2 stars. Now I'm going to go ahead and create a release. Now, of course, I do recommend using branches and that kind of thing for development, but this is a quick getting started version of this here. Well, I'm going to go ahead and hit the publish release just to show you what's going to happen. So we're going to see actions start running. They'll take a few minutes to run. We'll leave them be. Okay, we can see that our release is almost done building. So let's go ahead and actually look at this. We have one release. We can click on this. And it has downloads for all of the platforms that have been built. Well, let's see what happens. Now, this is not surprising. Windows is protecting me from running an unknown binary. I'm going to go ahead and click Run Anyway. Okay, there we go. We have it actually running. And if you weren't paying attention, what just happened here is I did all the work on Linux. I pushed it on Linux. I tagged it, and the automated GitHub processes for me went ahead and built this Windows binary, and I'm able to run my super awesome game right here on Windows with no further work from my part. So this is the entire process here. We have taken you all the way from a fresh install of Linux to actually having a submission ready to go. Now, once you have that tag done, you're going to need to create a pull request on the submission project, but that should get you going. And of course, if you have any questions at all, reach out on the Discord or reach out on either of the projects for help from me and other people. And I hope that you really have a lot of fun with this game jam and that you're able to come up with an awesome, super awesome project. So we look forward to seeing all of your submissions.